Welcome to Prophecy Countdown. I'm Pastor Ken, and welcome to today's teaching. Today's message is number 466, The Prophecy Over Gaza. Our episodes premiere on multiple audio and video channels every Wednesday at 11 a.m., and then again on Sundays at 1 p.m. We would love to hear from you. Send us your comments, your questions, and any ideas you may have for future episodes. You can email us at prophecycountdownpodcast@gmail.com. So let's get into today's teaching, number 466, The Prophecy Over Gaza. Gaza, that's a name that's been etched into history literally for thousands of years, yet it remains a focal point of world events even today. This small strip of land, roughly 25 miles long and about 6 miles wide, has been a battleground for empires, kings, nations, and once again, Gaza dominates world headlines. Over the past few decades, Gaza has been synonymous with conflict and terrorism. Since Israel's disengagement back in 2005, the Palestinian Authority briefly controlled it, but Hamas then took it over in 2007. Since then, it has been a center for rocket attacks, wars, and devastating losses. The brutal October 7th, 2023 attack on Israel, one of the deadliest days for the Jews since the Holocaust, has led to a full-scale war that has left Gaza literally in ruins. Nearly 2 million displaced people now live in a city, in an area that can only be described as desolation, with nearly 85% of the territory devastated completely. But as tragic as these events are, Gaza is more than just a geopolitical crisis. It's actually a place with a prophetic destiny. And now, it's in a surprising twist, Gaza is back in the news again, this time because President Donald Trump has proposed a bold real estate development plan for its reconstruction. Now, regardless of whether people see this as visionary or controversial, one thing is certain: Gaza is again once at the center of world attention. Long before the modern conflicts, the Bible spoke of Gaza's fate. The prophets of old, Amos, Zephaniah, and Zechariah, all foretold what would come about in this land. Now, what can we learn from these ancient prophecies? Well, that's the whole key to our podcast, as we take a look at these ancient prophecies, and we know that in some way, those that are unfulfilled will connect with the world today. Now, today's message is called The Prophecy Over Gaza, and we'll see how history, current events, and God's Word all point towards a divine plan that may be unfolding before our very eyes. I mentioned the prophets, Amos, Zechariah, and Zephaniah. And today I want to focus on a relatively obscure prophecy in Zephaniah chapter 2, verses 6 and 7. Here we find a prophecy about Gaza that stands in actually stark contrast to the condition of Gaza today. This is what Zephaniah wrote, and this is literally nearly 3,000 years ago. The land by the sea will become pastures, having wells for shepherds and pens for flocks. The land will belong to the remnant of the people of Judah. There they will find pasture. In the evening they will lie down in the houses of Ashkelon. The Lord their God will care for them. He will restore their fortunes. Now, this prophecy is directed specifically to this narrow strip of land that's been known as Gaza for over 4,000 years. Zephaniah's prophecy calls for something picturesque and something actually quite rural. However, today Gaza is actually the most densely populated area in the Middle East. It has approximately 5,500 people per square kilometer, the direct opposite of a peaceful pastoral land. However, know this: And this is key, actually, to understanding Bible prophecy. All Bible prophecy is fulfilled without exception. We can point to literally hundreds of prophecies that have been fulfilled, and those that remain, and there are nearly 3 times as many prophecies that remain than those that have been fulfilled. These will also be fulfilled, meaning this transformation prophesied by Zephaniah must occur. He had a prophecy about Gaza that was given by the Lord, and it must still take place. The question, like most Bible prophecy, is how and when? Well, let's go back about 3,000 years to see if we can begin to understand this struggle for Gaza. Gaza has always been a place of conflict, never fully under the rule of Judah or Israel. In biblical times, Gaza was a Philistine stronghold. It was one of the 5 major Philistine cities. As such, it was a constant thorn in Israel's side. You can read about the arrest and imprisonment of Samson, for example, in Judges 16. Samson was actually brought to Gaza. Now, briefly, Israel was under Israelite control. Joshua had allocated that land known as Gaza to the tribe of Judah. But like many of the lands that were allocated, Judah couldn't hang on to the territory, and they never really secured long-term rule. The land and the people that occupied Gaza were conquered numerous times. The Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Muslims, and even through crusaders fought over Gaza. However, and again, referring to the prophecy of Zephaniah, Israel never had lasting authority over this strip of land. And I keep on mentioning that because that's the prophecy, that this will be a land of peace, and that Israel will have control. There was a period of time, this is just before Christ, about 150 years before, the Hasmonean period. The Hasmonean period is when the Jews rose up against the Greeks, and then actually the Romans later. This was just prior to the time of Christ. This is the time that the Jews traced the origins of Hanukkah. This was the time of the Maccabees. There was a Jewish ruler named Hieronychus. He was a king. He was also a high priest. And he came in and destroyed Gaza, but after a brief period, again, lost control of the region. Multiple empires, rulers, and kings have ruled over Gaza, but history tells us that Gaza was never peacefully belonged, for example, to the people of Judah. Yet Zephaniah tells us the people of Judah, they will find pasture, and in the evening they will lie down in the houses of Ashkelon. Now, Ashkelon, by the way, lies about 8 miles north of Gaza. You can fly to Tel Aviv, and you can take a bus trip over to Ashkelon. It's a wonderful, beautiful city. You can vacation there. It's beautiful. It's vibrant. It's named after the Canaanite city of Ashkelon, the same name, which was completely destroyed. First by Nebuchadnezzar II back in the 6th century BC, and then the Muslims destroyed the city just to keep the city away from the coastal region, away from the Crusaders. This is back in the 13th century. Now that destruction and abandonment fulfilled 2 of the prophecies by Zephaniah and Jeremiah. So 13th century, that's almost the modern times, right? So let's go into the modern times. As I begin this teaching, in recent decades, Gaza has remained a center of turmoil. Since 1948, May 14th, 1948, when the modern state of Israel was formed, until 1967, in the Six-Day War, Egypt controlled Gaza. There was no Palestinian state. That area that we know as Gaza was controlled by Egypt. Then in 1967, Israel captured Gaza during the Six-Day War, and they provided security for the area, as well as introducing some Israeli settlements into the area. But after a long period of peace, Israel unilaterally left Gaza back in 2005 They withdrew from the area completely. This was during the days of Ariel Sharon, the prime minister of Israel, under a land for peace agreement worked out by the United Nations, the United States, and the Palestinian Authority. This roadmap for peace, however, was very short-lived. They always are. You try to sue for peace, you try to sue for land, but it doesn't work out unless both parties agreed to stop the hostilities. And in 2007, Hamas took over the leadership in the area and rejected a two-state agreement. This two-state agreement was actually proposed twice. Once during the reign of the PLO leader Yasser Arafat, and then later in 2007 with Hamas in control. The two-state agreement wasn't sufficient for the militants, for the terrorists, because their cry was from the river to the sea, and they wouldn't tolerate a state of Israel. They cried for the elimination of all of the Jews from that region. The most recent two-state agreement in refusal means that the peaceful Palestinian state alongside Israel has never materialized, regardless of all of the attempts by so many different people. Instead, Gaza has become a launching ground for violence against the people of Israel, funded by foreign governments, and it enables Hamas to sustain its rule. However, once again, Gaza is in the news. And why? Well, because Israel won this war beginning in October of 2023 until just recently. Israel dominated this campaign against Hamas, literally wiping out nearly all of Hamas's forces and decimating about 85% of the territory. Following this war, Gaza is largely reduced to rubble. Nearly 2 million people 2 million people are displaced. The humanitarian crisis is unprecedented. There's no clear path forward except that prophecy still it must be fulfilled. So that brings us to the latest news regarding Gaza. Let's take a look at President Trump's proposal. It could be that there is a historic transformation possible, and the question always is, how could it happen? Well, enter President Trump along with Prime Minister Netanyahu, two highly confident and ambitious leaders who are not afraid to challenge the status quo. While personal opinions on Trump vary, his ability to accomplish ambitious multilateral projects is undeniable. For example, there was the Abraham Accords back when Trump was in office for the first time, back in September of 2020. Trump secured a peace deal between Israel and a number of Arab states that had been hostile to Israel since its foundation in 1948. Many thought this was unlikely, if not impossible, yet Trump was able to do it. Then Trump also, at the same time, moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, confirming Jerusalem as Israel's capital, fulfilling decades of promises by multiple U.S. presidents. Now, Trump has proposed a new vision for Gaza. Most people don't even get to the details. They just dismiss it out of hand. But however, think about it. His vision would eliminate Hamas from the region permanently, ensuring there is no way that they can return to power. Rebuilding Gaza only under international oversight rather than under terrorist control. The potential relocation of most, if not all, of the displaced Palestinians and other Arabs from Gaza, which would leave the land then open for redevelopment and transformation. Now, if these actions take place, Gaza could become exactly what Zephaniah prophesied, a land of peace, pastures, and security for Judah. Now, I know that this proposal by Trump is wildly unpopular, but look at the alternatives. Neither Israel nor President Trump, President Trump's administration, would permit the billions of dollars that would be necessary to rebuild Gaza's infrastructure to go into Gaza under the control of the Palestinians, knowing that for every $3 that goes into rebuilding, $2 goes for weapons and rockets. The residents of Gaza elected, remember, to be ruled by the terrorist organization Hamas. And despite the carnage that's resulted from the unprovoked terrorist attack by Hamas on Israel back on October 7th of 2023, they again would embrace Hamas or another terrorist organization because they are so invested in their hatred of Israel. My friends, we are witnessing a moment in history that could set the stage in some way for the fulfillment of Zephaniah's prophecy. Israel exited all oversight of Gaza in 2005. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that will not ever happen again. As a result, back in 2005, Hamas rushed in, and today Gaza as a result is in ruin, displacement, and instability. However, if Hamas is removed and rebuilding efforts shift the population, Gaza's future could be rewritten in accordance with biblical prophecy. You know, remember, with prophecy, it's not whether prophecy will be fulfilled. The only question that remains is how and when.
Nearly every day, it's common to see, read, or hear something about the end of the world, the apocalypse, or end times. Author and pastor Kenneth Baer's The Apocalypse and Coming Kingdom zooms in and breaks down biblical prophecy as it relates to Jesus' imminent return and the coming 7-year period, including the Great Tribulation. Available in both paperback and Kindle versions. Get your copy on Amazon or at Barnes & Noble and select Christian bookstores. The title again is The Apocalypse and Coming Kingdom. You can also find it listed by author Kenneth Baer. Get your copy today.